Welcome back to Tales on Track. It's Sunday. Me and the big man have been washing some cars.
I mean, great.
Health.
Yep.
We've just fitted a spoiler onto this, and we are joined by Ross. Ross does.
Photography.
Wow.
Automotive.
I was waiting for an Instagram tag, mate.
Oh, right, okay. MON3YP1T.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
So he's popped by for a blether and has also questioned why this is a shelf. And I'll be honest, I don't actually have an answer for it because it's winter and that's kind of under a cover and we don't really think about it. We're going to dig the TVR out and show you guys how to properly picture a car. So we have now pulled it out and have sat it at a cocky angle in the unit. So what are we feeling here, Ross?
We're debating top down, top up. I think we're going to go top up just now. I need to turn the lights off so that we don't get any ambient light or anything like that. It's all controlled purely by me.
With that guy?
With this guy. We'll need to turn it on at some point, at least just the electrics, to try and get the lights.
Yep.
And then obviously, we'll Photoshop them later on.
Well, this is step one on how to take a good picture of a car. Obviously make sure it's clean, but we've...
Yeah. This is a Godox AD300 Pro. It's not the most expensive, and it's definitely not the brightest, but it works for me, for what I do. The actual light itself, pretty basic to be honest, but it's nice and portable. This actual piece here can take a lot of different lights, which is great. So this one's round, so it's got a wee bit of a curvy thing on it. This is the softbox. Basically what this does is it makes the light very, very soft. So any shadows you're going to get is going to be like this here. So if you can see underneath the car, there's a wee bit of a harsh one, and then you can see it gradually getting lighter. And that's because there's so many lights in here. So if you just had one, it would be pretty harsh and you would have like a really harsh line. This is so that it directs the light purely just on the car. So eventually we'll take this off and we'll get some ambient shots in here as well, just to make sure that it's in an environment. But in terms of this is to make sure that when you photograph the car, you get that perfect line all the way across the car as if it's in like a big studio. It's set to flash at the moment. So if I was just to do this, it flashes, beeps, lets me know. This is all your different settings, you don't really need to know all that. But what the cool thing is it actually can do like a lamp. You'll see it's now just on ambient rather than a flash. It actually just sits here like this. And one battery I can get about 200 to 300 flashes at full power. I don't usually use it on full power. I try to kind of balance it up so I can get a lot more images out of it. So I can take about 600 images today. I'm not going to, but if we needed to.
Yeah, we've only got so many hours.
Yes. So I'm thinking probably we take a shot like this first. You don't want to take a picture just from here. This is head height, you see the car from this angle all the time, so there's no point in doing that. I think even from this angle, if I was to take it from here, this wheel here, we'll turn it so that it's facing to the right so we can actually see the rim. Because obviously the rims on this are actually really nice, and I think if we can point it that way, get a shot of the rim as well as the whole car, it gives it a little bit of character rather than just being straight on.
I've got a job to do. Turn a wheel.
This is the tripod I'm going to be using. Nothing fancy, anything like that. It does for what I need it for. So you see a lot of images that look like mine's. The way that they're done is actually called light painting, which is not what I do. So I do like 10, 15 different exposures. They're all different pictures. However, light painting is a bit different. So what I showed you before, where the light was on continuously, what they would do is they would just they would set up the camera, put it on a long exposure, or like maybe 10, 15 seconds, and what they would do is they would walk with the light all the way across, and you would get an even burst of light. If you've got something like this, and especially if you're doing it outside, say you're at a car meet or something like that, it's dark, you want to get that nice light, I would recommend getting like sandbags, and they'll hang over here. And it means that as you take the picture at long exposure, it doesn't shake as much. Because if it shakes, your image is ruined. The camera has a mirror that flicks every time you take a picture. If you're able to put the mirror up, I would suggest doing so for a long exposure, because if you don't, at the start of that long exposure, it's going to click, and when it clicks, it'll move the whole camera, and sometimes you get even just the tiniest wee bit of shake can ruin the whole photo. I've set this up on the tripod just now, so you can see the wheel here on the screen. What I am thinking though is that as much of a nice clean image as this will be, and it'll be like, I think because this is a wide angle as well, it looks really, you know, there's a lot of character to it. However, I think maybe we need to go a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit higher with the tripod, and then we'll see how that looks. So if I just take this out here, just a standard, you know, one step up like this, and we'll see if that makes any difference. I'm not sure if I like that or not. So it's more side on rather than front heavy, because otherwise we're not going to get it to look that good. So I think that should be okay there. Eventually I will put the lights off, and then obviously we can start flashing. And when you're doing this, do go onto live view, and you'll see obviously on the screen here. So when I've got this wee red box here, what you want to do is you want to zoom into like where like the main kind of point is. On manual, focus here. So if it's got this here, switch it to manual. This is a manual lens anyway, I believe. So we should be fine. Tweak the focus, just about perfect. Then you can back out. You can't see it just now, but it will be obviously pin sharp when you zoom in. You then want quite an open, quite a closed aperture. The more closed it is, the more of the car you're going to get in focus. So when you take a picture here, for example, this is where the focus is just now. This is where I've set it up. You don't want to get back to here, and then this starts blurring, and then the back of the car is like, there's no definition in it. Once you've done that, you need to then you need to work with the power of the light to make sure that it's powerful enough that you're going to get an exposed image that looks good, but you've still got that crisp, you know, car all the way through. Because if you close it down too much and then you don't have the power in this, you're not going to get an image that's light enough that you can then use later on. Maybe do F18, I can maybe get away with that. Close this up here a little bit, and then take the ISO down. You don't want the ISO too high either. Depends on your camera. This one's pretty good. So you get a lot of what's called noise, where if you zoom into the image, you're going to have a lot of pixels, and it's not going to look great because the pixels are different colors when you get noise. There's a lot of technology these days that does help with that. But in terms of shooting straight from the camera, you want to try and make it as crisp and clean and smooth as possible. This is the trigger system. So this trigger system will tell the flash when to go, basically. So if I was to flash this just now, yeah, there you go. So it flashes because I've hit this button. So that's what your test button. Obviously, if you were to take a picture, it flashes as well. Say you've got like 3 different lights set up. You can actually change the 3 lights individually just by using this. Now we've got the actual shot set up, I'm going to start going around and just flashing the car. And then what we'll do is we'll have a look at the back of the camera, see how they look, and I'll go through the pictures and you'll see how they line up to light the car properly.
What we've done here for the purposes of entertainment is dull all the back area so that the flash is going to work for this, but we're keeping the front lights on so that you can see what we're doing, because if these go off, this entire video is pointless.
What I'm doing here with the actual flash, when you bring it round, so any reference images that you see online, they'll have that like pinstripe of light, it's like the light across like the curves and things like that of the car. If you're going to do that, obviously you can do that with the painting with light, which is what I mentioned earlier on, which will get that clean line. However, when you do it like this, you kind of need to match it up in Photoshop, which obviously again, you see later on, but try and make it so that the light is the same distance away from the car as you go around the car, because if it's not, you're going to have the light in different places, it's not going to match up. Here you can see that it's just the shoulder of the car that I was photographing all the way along there. So I'll need to now move the light, sorry, so that I can then actually photograph the soft top. And I'll need to make sure as well in this image here, so you can actually see that I don't have the full part of the car, it just kind of disappears. So I'll need to make sure I get a picture from that side as well. So, I photographed most of what I need there, in terms of the shoulders, kind of front of the car. The top obviously is black, or Vanta black as we were saying there, so it just doesn't pick it up. So I will be doing like an ambient shot, which means that there's no flash, it's just lighting. The ambient light that's here, we will use that and it'll be a longer exposure. I'll then use some of those bits to put in where you can't get it with flash. So it's very much a photo. The final image is going to be very much just built rather than taken. So the front lip, it wasn't lit at all. So the light was up here, which means that this is going to cast a shadow on all of this here. So you don't see that at all in any of the images. Obviously you know it's there because your mind goes, oh yeah, and completes the image, but you can't see that at all. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to make sure I get the TVR badge as well, just in case obviously I missed it in some of the images. I'm going to make sure that I get a good one of that, and I'll maybe cut it out and paste it in and just make sure it looks good. I'm going to lower the light and I'm going to go around the same way I did with the top and just even out a picture of the bottom here. So obviously we spoke about earlier the fact that I've turned the wheel specifically so that we can see the rim. Make sure that we send the light in here and light it all up. Same with the back one. You can't see much of the back one, but it is there, so we do need to make sure that it gets light. Right, so we now have the lights on. This is the ambient shot, so this is where you don't use any flash, you just use the light that you have. So the picture is going to look very basic. That's the point though. It's just to pick up any wee details. So like this, it's not reflective at all. It's fabric. It's never going to like pick up that much light, if any. So it's very, very difficult to photograph. We will then turn the lights off after this. The lights of the car will be on, and what I'll maybe get Tommy to do is to go and sit on the back brake light as well. Sometimes it depends. If you don't have another person, you could just like edit it in, and it works sometimes. I've done it myself, and a lot of like really big images that I've done, I can maybe show a couple of examples here or whatever, but I have done it before. So this is a 20-second exposure. The reason I'm coming away from the camera just now is that it's a concrete floor, but if you were anywhere near it and you moved slightly, it might move it, and then your image is gubbed. You heard a click there. That means it started taking the picture, and that was the other click, which means that it's now obviously taking the picture. Okay, so yeah, so this is a bit better. It's a bit more even, and then obviously you can zoom in, you can see that it's pretty sharp. There's no movement, like what I was saying earlier on. And I can use, so this is the black bit I was talking about. So obviously it couldn't be picked up. I can now use that, and what I'll do is I'll make it a bit more kind of bluish, and it will tone in with the rest of the image. And then just to make the whole image look better, this will be changed to kind of a blue tone as well, just to make sure it suits the car. And then a final colour adjustment will be done, and it'll look pretty good. So fingers crossed.
Now she's back under her cover again. That is phase one of taking the picture done. Now we're going to pass to the editing stage, which is probably far more technical, and Ross is going to give us a run through how to make the picture look right. that's what the pictures look like once they're done. Thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, subscribing. We will be back hopefully soon with more car related stuff. Thanks to Ross. What was your tag again?
MON3YP1T on Instagram.
Have a look, check it out, and be impressed. See you later, guys.